Fear. It's a word that often conjures up negative emotions, but in the Bible, the fear of God is something quite different. It's not about cowering in terror, but about having a deep respect, awe, and reverence for God's power, holiness, and love. Throughout the scriptures, we encounter countless individuals who exemplify this kind of godly fear. From Abraham's willingness to sacrifice Isaac to Job's unwavering faith in the midst of suffering, these figures inspire us with their courage, commitment, and unwavering trust in God. In this video, we'll be focusing on 10 key examples. Abraham. When God commands Abraham to sacrifice his son Isaac, Abraham demonstrates his ultimate fear of God by obeying, even though it means putting everything on the line. This story teaches us about the power of faith and obedience, even when things seem impossible. Job. Despite facing unimaginable trials and tribulations, Job never loses his faith in God. He continues to worship and praise God, even when he doesn't understand why he's suffering. Job's story reminds us that God is always with us, even in our darkest moments. Joseph. Even when falsely accused and thrown in prison, Joseph remains faithful to God. He uses his God-given gifts to rise to a position of power and ultimately saves his family and the people of Egypt from famine. Joseph's story teaches us that God can use us for his purposes, even in difficult circumstances. Moses. When God calls Moses to lead the Israelites out of Egypt, Moses is hesitant and afraid. But he overcomes his fear and trusts in God's plan. Moses' story teaches us that God equips us for the tasks he calls us to do, even when we feel inadequate. Noah. When God warns Noah about a coming flood, Noah doesn't hesitate. He builds an ark and saves his family and the animals. Noah's story teaches us the importance of listening to God's voice and obeying his commands. King David. King David is a complex figure, but throughout his life, he expresses his deep reverence and fear of God. His psalms are filled with expressions of love, trust, and dependence on God. David's story teaches us that even when we make mistakes, God's forgiveness and grace are always available. Solomon. The wisest man in the Bible, Solomon emphasizes the fear of God as the foundation of all true wisdom. He reminds us that true happiness and fulfillment come from living in accordance with God's will. Solomon's story teaches us that seeking God's wisdom is the key to a meaningful life. Hannah. Hannah's fervent prayer and vow to God demonstrate her deep faith and commitment. Her story teaches us that God hears and answers our prayers, even when we feel like he doesn't. Daniel. Daniel's unwavering faith in God leads him to defy a king's decree and continue praying to God. He is miraculously saved from the lion's den. Daniel's story teaches us that God is always with us, even when we face persecution. Mary. The mother of Jesus, Mary's Magnificat expresses her deep reverence and awe for God. Her story teaches us that humility and obedience are essential qualities for those who want to follow God. These are just a few examples of the many biblical figures who inspire us with their fear of God. As we learn from their stories, we can cultivate our own reverence and awe for God in our own lives. What does the fear of God mean to you? How can you cultivate it in your own life? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more inspiring content.